Alrighty, so today we are going to talk about the last team that got eliminated in the regular season in the Moving Forward series episode. Today we're going to talk about DC United, and it's a perfect time to talk about DC too because I just got this cherry blossom jersey that I bought during the Thanksgiving sale or the Black Friday sales as well as the MLS store has it. Got this for roughly about $50, which is pretty cheap compared to your average price right now for a jersey, and not to mention that it does help the fact that I don't think DC does wear this jersey anymore, but it is definitely a very nice jersey that I'll definitely be wearing in the near future as well. But with that being said, for DC this season, they finished with the exact same point as they did last season, but you can sense that there were maybe a little bit of a progression that they made. I mean, they came very close in terms of making the playoffs. In fact, if it wasn't for Orlando not getting the equalizer against Atlanta, DC would be the one that would make it to the playoffs and would be the last team in and would be facing against Inter Miami compared to Atlanta United. And we will never know whether or not if DC can put up just an incredible fight that Atlanta did and pull off that historic upset that we have seen in the playoffs that Atlanta did to Inter Miami if DC would have made it. But with that being said, they did finish with a 10-10-14 record. Again, they finished the exact same amount of points that they had last season with 40 points. But because of the fact that the Eastern Conference playoffs this season has been pretty much a shit show, they were definitely in it until the end. They scored 52 goals this season. This was a very entertaining DC side to watch, and it's expected because Troy Lesesne, he is a guy that comes from the Red Bull system. He plays that energy drink soccer kind of style, and one thing we know about the energy drink soccer style, especially when you have the player to do so and the attackers to do so, you can play some entertaining soccer. And it turns out there's that guy called Christian Benteke that was very good, so good so that he actually won the Golden Boot this year and was a big part of the 52 goals that DC scored. In fact, almost half of the goal that DC scored this season came from Christian Benteke. But the big problem for this team was definitely the goals that they conceded. Yeah, 70 goals that they conceded this season. The defense was pretty much non-existent. So was the goalkeeping as well. Not only that's the worst goal allowed mark in the Eastern Conference, but I think that's second worst to the Quakes, who all gave up 70 plus goals as well this season. Actually, broke the record for the most goal conceded by any team in MLS history. Now, in terms of goal differential, minus 18, and again, they finished 10th in the Eastern Conference. They almost made it. But unfortunately, as we'll talk about on decision day, yeah, you kind of had a sense that they kind of almost didn't deserve to make it in because of the decision day resort that they had. But in terms of the last five season, yeah, it's been rough as a DC fan. Again, DC has been going for a bit of a rough period. This is nothing compared to the DC team that we've seen before in the original dynasty of MLS. In some way, they're kind of like the Chicago Fire in a way where this is a team that is just way past their glory and way past where they used to be considered to be the class of the league. But last season, they finished with a 12th place finish with the exact same record, 10-10-14 with 40 points. And then in 2022, it was even worse. 14th place with a 7-6-21 record. It's one of the worst points total in the league with 27 points. Then in 2021, very similar to last year, they barely missed out on the playoff in eighth position, and that was, I think, the year that they also missed out on decision day two, where they actually played really well, so well that they actually beat TFC in the decision day game, but the result just didn't quite go their way, and they missed out on the playoffs with a 14-5-15 record, and they actually had 47 points that season. Normally, 47 points should be enough to get you in the playoffs, especially in the East this year. I mean, that would have made the playoffs and probably maybe even avoid the play-in round though. But yeah, they missed out on the playoffs of that year, and then in the COVID shortened season, yeah, it was a disaster. 13th place finish with a 5-6-12 record, finished with only 21 points. And then the last time they made it to the playoffs was 2019 when they finished in fifth place with a 13-11-10 record and finished with 50 points. But yeah, they lost in the first round against TFC, and it was not a great loss for them. Even though they showed some fight in that game, I still remember that was the game where they conceded 4 goals in extra time against TFC and just getting absolutely blown apart in extra time by Toronto FC. Now, looking at the top goal scorer of this team, unsurprisingly, it's your Golden Boot winner, Christian Benteke, leads the team with 23 goals. In fact, the next top goal scorer for this DC team, there's a huge drop off. You got Gabriel Priani with 6 goals, followed by Dahome with 3 goals, Pedro Santos with 3 goals, and Jared Trout with 3 goals. Now, when it comes to top assist leader, it's a little bit closer. You got Mateus Click with 13 assists, followed by Jared Stroud with 10 assists. Then you got Aaron Herrera with 8 assists, Christian Benteke with 7 assists, and Martin Rodriguez with 5 assists to round up the top 5 assist leader for this DC side. Now, what's the best win of the season? It's got to be that 4-4 win that they had against Nashville SC. So this was late in the season. They were 3-1 down in that game, and not only the fact that they came all the way back, well, they did it literally with the time winding down. Like the last 5 minutes of the game. I mean, depending on how you look at it, that was probably the best comeback we have ever seen last season in MLS and in recent year, as well, scoring 3 goals late to turn the game completely on its head. We can also say that was an absolute collapse that we usually do not see a national team do. There's a reason why they not only miss out on the playoffs for the first time in their franchise history, but it was by far the worst season in their short life in MLS. But yeah, that was a win that really gave belief to this DC team. And unlike what I said about the last couple of teams that miss out on the playoffs, this DC team actually had a pretty good run heading into decision day. It's not like this team just simply collapsed late in the season. They were in a really good position in terms of making the playoffs. And then the decision day game happened. Yeah, they completely lay an egg against Charlotte in that one, losing 3-0 in this that one in front of their home crowd, and it was a very despair kind of performance. And home form would be something we would also talk about that was one of the major downfall of DC season as well. And in terms of the average attendance, 18,061, good for 27 in the league. There was times where there were some empty seats at Aldi Field, and I'm not surprised because again, this is a team that not only hasn't played very well at home, they haven't really played well in the last couple of years. It's harder for the fans to shell out the prices, especially DC. Their tickets at Aldi Field among the highest in the league, and for a team that isn't doing very well, I'm surprised their ticket prices is that high. I mean, I can understand it is one of the newer MLS stadium, and it's a stadium that DC fans have been been happy that it's finally been built after have to deal in that crap hole known as RFK Stadium for so long. But yeah, I mean that new stadium smell, it has clearly weared off. The attendance has not been great whatsoever, and I don't blame DC fans for not showing up because again, this team when you only win very little game at home, there's really not much you can cheer about the team, especially of how bad they've been the last couple of years. Now, looking at the MVP of this team, I mean, it's Christian Benteke. I don't even need to say it. He might be one of the first Golden Boot winner to never did not even make it to the playoffs. It is very rare we see a guy that wins the Golden Boot and they don't and their team doesn't make the playoffs. I mean, I feel like DC, all the DC player needs to owe Christian Benteke a huge apology because he simply carried this offense on his back. Like the amount of times that he has been scoring goals and have been scoring big goals for this DC team. Just to show you that this is a guy that, again, I know he has that tendency throughout his career of missing bad sitters and so forth, but this was probably the most lethal that Christian Benteke has looked in a very long time. Probably right up there in terms of his Aston Villa days as well. He was a very lethal player and a player that, we knew he could be a guy that can score 10 or 15 plus goal. We didn't knew that he would be a guy that scored 23 goal and really having one of his best season in his career in this this prior season with DC United. Now, obviously, the disappointment for this team. I mean, I could have easily gone with some of the defensive player, but to be fair, when you look at the defense for DC, that was always going to be a major issue, and this is also again where the energy drink soccer system that Troy Lesesne has. Well, it seems like they have the attack to do so. They clearly don't have the defensive structure to do so, and that's why they give up so many goals. Eh, But instead of going with the disappointment in terms of the back line, like I would do with FC Dallas, I'm gonna go with Gabriel Priani as the disappointment. I mean, this is a guy that again, there was a lot of good things said about him coming to DC, and it seems like he's going to live up to that potential, and it just have not done so. I mean, we've seen before where when you sign a player that you think it's going to work out, and yeah, it just kind of fell flat. And while he did end up in terms of second top goal scored on the team for a guy that DC spent some money to get him and the salary that he's on, he could definitely do much better in terms of that. Now, in terms of young player to watch, I'm still gonna go with Ted Kutubietro, even though I think he had a regress of a season. I would say he probably could also belong in the disappointment category. I mean, after he really lights up in his first season, there was even talk about that he's on the fringe of being on the national team. Yeah, it's no doubt that TKP has suffered a bit of a regression this year, kind of a sophomore slump, and you just hope that he'll of course bounce back. I mean, this DC team does have a bit of an underrated academy, and they do have produced some really good young players out of their academy as well. And TKP is definitely one of those one, and you just hope that he can bounce back and look almost similar to the player that he was in his first season, where he really announced his presence and was a big young player to watch around the league when he came into this league just a couple of years ago. So what went right for this DC team? Obviously, Christian Benteke, of course, winning the Golden Boot. We haven't seen that happen with a DC United player winning a Golden Boot. But the other thing that went right for this team, again, I think Troy Saints definitely made this team much better. I mean, when you look at previous head coach, I think this is probably the most exciting soccer and the kind of soccer that I think DC fans would like to watch, which is he brought some energy to this team and brought some fun soccer to watch. And not to mention, I remember it was not long ago when DC was still under Ben Olsen, and then also under Heron Lasada as well. This team at times were well, I think the Heron Lasada team was very fun to watch. He also implemented that fun style of soccer, but after that it kind of feels like it's a boring kind of style of soccer that DC was running again, and that again Troy Lesane has done a really good job in terms of bring that back. But again, this is where we get to some of the thing that went wrong for this team, especially as I mentioned with the fact that while he brought some great fun soccer and that energy drink soccer to this team, it is pretty clear that he does not have the team to do so. I mean, we kind of knew that before. The last offseason they didn't really make too much changes in their team, and it kind of show, and it also I think the reason why that is the case is I think this team has been going for a bit of a rebuild. They're kind of thinking the same thing that we see with TFC, where they're just kind of get rid of some of these bad contracts that they had. They have a lot of bad contract on their hand, especially with the previous regime, just like what we see with Toronto. Just kind of signed some really bad contract that TFC or DC right now have just able to get out of it this off season. But yeah, that defense and goalkeeping was a black hole to this team. I mean, that defense, literally one of the bottom tier in the league. It's been like that for the past couple of years, and the goalkeeping as well. Alex Bono, yeah, he's not the same as what we saw when he was with Toronto. And he hasn't been the same. He has been a show of his old self. And with them going with Luis Barraza as their no new goalkeeper potentially, and I say that's potentially because we don't know if he's going to be the starter, or is it going to be Bono again. And I mean, the signing of Barraza, I don't know if that really moved the needle, considering Barraza wasn't really that good with NYCFC as well. This is something that I think DC will absolutely need to address if they want to get themselves back to the playoffs, and have Troy Lesane continue to bring this energy drink kind of soccer that this team has. And then, of course, the other issue with this team, point drop from winning position. And again, part of that is because of the fact that the defense is not there, but it's also due to the fact that the fact that this energy drink soccer, it relies on a lot of finesse, a lot of well, not finesse, but fitness, that is, and a lot of a lot of energy from the players as well. They just simply don't have that, and that's kind of where you start to see the points are being dropped. Players maybe get tired of playing this kind of brand of soccer, and then they start for a bit of lapse of concentration. And at one point, in the beginning of the season, they were among the league worst when it comes to protecting a lead. They were dropping points at a really alarm rate, and this is kind of where I've said in the beginning of the season, where as much as I feel like DC has clearly underperformed their expectancy points total early on. And when you also look at some of the games that they play, I don't think that kind of is the case. If they would have just hold on to the leads, which was something that was a huge problem, and they just could not play a full 90 minutes performance early in the season. And then the last thing that went wrong, the home form. So as I mentioned, the home form was absolutely woeful. They were tied with the Union with the fewest wins this season at home in the Eastern Conference. In fact, literally the final 2 months of the season. If you're a DC fans and you hope that you can see your team win at Audi Field, then I have some bad news for you. You're not gonna see your team win a home game. In fact, their last home win wasn't even in MLS. It was in the Leeds Cup against Santos Laguna, and even then, it doesn't actually count as a home win because they were actually the visiting team playing at Audi Field. Again, just that wacky rule in terms of the Leeds Cup that is where Liga MX's team could be designated as the home team, but they technically are not the home team when they're playing against the designated road team that is literally playing in their home venue. But yeah, again, the home form was absolutely atrocious. And how many times I've said that if you can't win your home games, it doesn't matter what you do on the road. And on the road, I think DC was actually pretty decent. But if you can't win home games, and you keep dropping points at home, and especially if you only win like 4 home games, more times or not, you are not going to make the playoffs. We've seen before where teams that have done so bad at home and maybe do a little bit better on the road, more times or not, they can't overcome that. You have to get your home points. You can not afford to just win 4 home games and expect to make it to the playoffs. So moving forward for this DC team, obviously, as I mentioned, the backline and goalkeeping, it absolutely needs a reshape. They kind of did that with the goalkeeping with bringing Luis Barraza, but like I said, I don't know if that really moves the needle considering he wasn't that good with NYCFC either, and he was kind of a backup there as well. And in some way, this front office, which again, there's been some criticism with this front office from DC fan because of the lack of spending that they had, and that's crazy to say considering again with how prestige this team has had. You would expect the front office that should be more ambitious than what this team should be. But there's no doubt that there is going to be some flexibility to make some signings. They have a lot of cap space among the most in the league, and also they also have a DP spot open, and they might actually have two DP spot open because I heard Mateus Click looks like he's going to be moving on to another team. Looks like he's going to go to Atlanta United as well. So yeah, there are definitely cap spaces. There are definitely some flexibility, but it's all about whether or not if this DC front office is gonna look at that and make those signings, and most importantly make the right signing, because while you might have a lot of cap space to work with, if you don't make the right signings, then DC could be back in the same spot that they've always been the last couple of years. And then lastly, again, besides using that cap space on defense, I feel like they do need another playmaker, especially that now that they lost Mateus Click, their biggest playmaker for this team. They really need a number or 10, or at least something similar to that. I mean, Jared Trout had done a really good job in his fullback position, and I think Jared Trout actually had a really good season. It's been a great signing for that DC of course got uh, from 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 St. Louis, but still, again, they need a playmaker. They also need a goal scorer too to relieve the burdens of Benteke, because something tells me I don't think Benteke is going to repeat what he did this year. I think this is kind of the peak of what Benteke has done. I mean, he can prove me wrong by scoring 20 plus goal again, but there's no doubt that they absolutely need to relieve the pressure off of him. What he has done is something that is not very normal in terms of MLS. We don't usually see one player that just single-handedly carried the team and drag them to the playoffs. You need, of course, some supporting cast, and that's going to be something that DC would absolutely need if they want to get themselves over the hump. Because again, it's got to be frustrating if you're a DC fan. You came so close a couple times to make the playoffs, unable to do so, and then they just kind of go for a regression. And it's almost similar to what I said about the San Jose Quakes, of the fact that the Quakes, like DC, this is a team that has gone through a lot of rebuild at times, and then just kind of barely sneaking into the playoffs. only followed by next year just complete regression back to the mean, and it feels like we're back to a rebuild and back to saying, oh, it's a new era for this team heading into next season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at DC United in the moving forward series episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a DC fan, what do you think is the MVP, disappointment, young player to watch, what went right, what went wrong, and most importantly, moving forward, how do you think this team is going to look heading into next season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.